anybody out there?
And now, live from Manchester, 1FM, Mark Lamarr.
Me and Mark Commode were talking about the worst lines in rock and roll movies last night, like the bit in The Doors when Jim Morrison hands Ray Manzarek the lyrics to Light My Fire, and he says, "Give me a minute, I'll work out an intro." So Morrison walks off, and then suddenly, note perfect, you hear... Or the Jan and Dean story, the worst TV movie ever made, which, as you can imagine, is up against some pretty stiff competition, where Jan has a car crash, suffers severe brain damage, and can barely talk for a dozen years. But he decides to go back on the road and is lured back on stage as the mob scream for him. And despite the brain damage, despite the 12 years of not being able to talk, he suddenly gives it a portion of... Then, of course, there's Backbeat. There's chock full of people having hard days, nights and working 8 days a week, but not buying love from meter maids. So what we need is the Bobby Fuller story, because at least in the scene where he's writing, "I fought the law," and he's stuck on the line, "I needed money," and his mate says, "Well, why don't you try, because I had none." At least you'd believe it. Andrew, what a week it's been for you.
It's been
Within
a
the
whirl.
last week, you won a Sony Award and became editor of Empire magazine.
It's more than a boy can take, innit?
What else have you been doing?
What else is there to do, you know? I won a Sony Award on the same day that I had my leaving party. So I drank from 12 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock the next day.
Big or clever, is it?
That is big and clever,
Yeah,
where I
fair
come
enough.
from. I'm glad to be up in Manchester, I must admit, because they've got the Commonwealth Games, haven't they? Just virtually in 2004.
Well,
they're
they
gonna be
virtually
hosting
had the Olympics,
And no one else wanted to have them. That's why they've got it, apparently. They're the only people that put a bid in. That's the best way to get it, isn't it?
But then that means, like, in 2005 it's going to be like the World Tiddlywinks Championship, and that's going to be posters all over town and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm still glad to be up here because it's a kind of balmy evening, isn't it?
Because in only 9 years, it was the same city that will be hosting the Commonwealth Games.
Can I just ask? You're talking about rock films.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but do you know who plays Mark in the Legends of the Fall? Because that's just come out, hasn't it? Legends of the Fall.
Oh.
Somebody must be playing him because he's not in it.
Have we got the old up-brumch? No, it's not
we
here.
have. There is a symbol in here. I'll bring it along for the next joke that I'll do. I'll be doing another joke later on.
So this whole Sony award thing, this ceremony, what was the ceremony like? Because
awards, eh?
Yeah.
I've been down to Grosvenor House so many times this year. I'm on first name terms with the barman. And, really, I really have, because the Music Week Awards, the big sort of music industry awards were there, and I went down to them, and the PPA Awards were, in fact, last night.
What are they?
And that is the Periodical Publishers Association, and it's magazines, basically, and we went down in our capacity as magazine
That must be a real
people.
strange mix, because you'll get Angling Weekly and stuff there.
Yeah,
and,
angling for
crocheting bi-monthly and stuff like that.
Absolutely, and Loaded were there, of course. Loaded won everything. You may have heard of this well-known Lads magazine. That won all the awards. It scooped.
I didn't know it won any awards.
Yep, it won Magazine of the Year and Editor of the Year for James Brown, an old friend of mine. Gave me my first break in the business, in case anyone's interested. But basically, you go to Grosvenor House, you wear your dicky bow. It's like an office party. It's like a really huge office party. If they had photocopiers there, people would be photocopying their asses by the end of the night. And they're all getting off with people and doing embarrassing
But luckily
things.
there's photographers that can photograph your ass, so it doesn't make any difference.
And put you in whatever your trade magazine is. So, yeah, I mean, I think awards are great.
But what happens at the PPA award? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, PPA.
I did tend to lose interest quite quickly.
Yeah.
But what happens? Did all the people that work for music magazines sort of hang around together, and all the people that work for, Digging Up the Road magazines, they all hang about together? Or do people mix?
No, it's appalling. You sit on your table and you bang the table whenever your company's name comes up. And you never even knew you were corporate until you got there. And then you're not your company, and you just turn into animals.
Oh, so you have to vote for all the magazines that you've never heard of before?
Yeah,
because,
it's
not
appalling.
vote, but vote with your banging on the
If they're
table.
your company, you have to go, yes, rah, rah, rah. We are glad to work for this company.
So come on, give us a bit of your acceptance speech.
I did a very good acceptance speech. I said, DLT in the old days used to say the best way to broadcast was to imagine that you were always broadcasting to one person. And I said that's become very easy over the last couple of years at Radio 1. Big laughs from Matthew Bannister in the Radio 1 table. And I think that's all I said.
That was the point that Danny Baker left the room, I think.
He holds court wherever he goes, Danny Baker.
Yeah, was he there?
Yeah, he was there. He presented an award. Next year, hopefully, we'll be presenting an award. I'd like that. That means you're really over the hill, isn't it? When you're just presenting other people awards, you've had yours and you present them.
I tell you what, it's even worse when you've hosted those sort of ceremonies.
The PPA awards were hosted by Tony Hawks, who you probably have rubbed up against in the stand-up circuit. Did the worst load of stand-up I've ever heard. Very disappointing because he's very good.
Well, it's very disappointing that I have to sort of argue in favour of one of my friends.
No, I said, you like him, he's very good, but no, he didn't quite spark off with the magazine publishers.
Oh dear,
well... Aren't awards horrible looking? All awards are horrible looking.
Is that what
even the Oscars are horrible. No, I'm to tell you,
right, sorry.
They're horrible. They are. The Sony Award, which I'm pleased to have, and he's propping the door open as we speak, is just ugly. It's like a radio, sort of etched, like a tranny or something like that.
Not a transvestite,
a transistor radio.
The In the City Awards, I think they're called, which I sort of co-hosted a couple of years ago. Mark won one last year, and it's 2 bananas and an apple.
It's one banana and two apples.
Sorry, yeah.
The Sellafield one is the 2 bananas.
It was
and 1
so
apple.
unimportant that I forgot what it looked like. So no, obviously not to Mark, but to me, because I was only giving, and obviously giving is better than receiving.
Absolutely.
Anyway, welcome back. Mark Lamarr sitting for Mark Radcliffe. Still to come, 3/4 of the show. More Andrew Collins, What We're Being Stone Deaf and Everything, a reading from John Greenwood, and a fabulous Bobby Boy, Bob Dylan mix, and also the return of Lard. Where were you last night?
Mark.
Hi, Mr. Riley. Sorry.
Oh, listen, I've got something to do here. I've got something very important to do, which is it's been faxed through, so it's obviously very urgent.
Okay.
And it's actually tour information, so I need me bed if you don't mind.
Take it away.
Apparently there's going to be an evening of psychedelia, fuzz guitar and twangy sitar or something at the Berlin Bar on Ship Street in Brighton, featuring Vibrasonic and the Mistreated.
Great bands, both great
Brilliant
bands.
night, not to be missed, and that's Wednesday the 3rd of May. So there you go.
Hold on, when is Wednesday the 3rd of May?
It's today. Isn't it?
So that's of no use to us. Look, almost 20 to 11. Everyone who would have been there would have probably seen both the bands and gone home by now.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't do it last night, could I? Because I wasn't here. And it only arrived yesterday.
Well, the point I'm making, Mr. Riley, sorry, I'm forgetting, so Full Gladly Week.
Be nice.
Full Gladly Week. Why weren't you here last night?
Well, what it was, Radcliffe's holidaying all week. He's in Yorkshire. Yeah. He's gone to Filey. He's like on a caravan site in Filey. And I got a card from him he wanted a card from him. It was from his neighbour. And he told me where he was, because I didn't know. So I thought I'd, suffer Fool's Gladly Week. I thought perhaps I'd be in with a shout. So I went up there to spend, the week with him.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really that overjoyed to see me. Well, he was all right, but he just wasn't sort of that all right, really.
Well, what happened? Come on, spit it out. You went up to him and, hiya Mark, fancy a brew and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And did he say, hello, Mr. Riley? Nice to see you.
No, he didn't. No.
Well, what did he do?
He hit me with a shovel and told me to piss off.
Seems fair enough. How many people are going to get confused and think, I've never heard of that band. Like Verve, used to love them, but The Verve.
Well, it's a shame, isn't it?
The whole thing's very petty, isn't it?
No, it's Americans, isn't it? But, whenever they always have to make you change your name just to make you look stupid. The Suede are called the London Suede, aren't they? And the Charlatans UK, it's just having a laugh at our expense.
The Andrew Collins, then, in case there was a record label called Andrew Collins.
And the.
They're actually
they're called the
old and Wonky Alice as well, which was a killer. Apparently, there's loads of bands in America called Wonky Alice, and they had to change the name to the old and Wonky Alice.
And UKDK UK, they had to do it as well.
Terrible.
I just thought of that. Sorry.
That's okay.
I should have warned you. Got a symbol over. Did you know there's a statue of Richard Jobson?
No, sorry. I was just going to rewind to that bit of silence there because I was quite enjoying it.
No. There's a statue.
No. That's enough.
Oh, it's lovely, wasn't it? It's lovely. It was, that was a white space.
So there's a statue of Richard
Jobson in the Scottish Royal Academy, made out of, I've got it written down here, 2,500 coat hangers. And it cost 47 grand to buy. And how long did it take Richard to do? Richard Jobson, there's a statue of Richard Jobson. I can't handle that. I really can't. And did you see that programme, that Panorama programme, that said cannabis is really bad for you, and that it gives you all sorts of bad side effects, including memory loss? I did see a bit of that, yeah. Do you see that programme about Panorama about cannabis?
Boom, boom.
Anyway, do you want some more white space?
That's enough.
It's lovely. It's beautiful, isn't it? You can bask in it.
You told me you had something you were going to talk about.
No, I'm going to talk about the Joy Division book that's just come out.
Oh, right, yeah.
Deborah Curtis, the widow of Ian Curtis, is now putting her book out next month, and it's called Touching from a Distance. And you find out in it that Ian Curtis was a miserable Tory voting control freak nutter. Really? That's what you find out. And I always thought he sounded like such a sunny individual on the records, didn't you? Yeah, what a surprise. He was a bit gloomy now and again. It is a shocking book. There's no laughs to be had in it at all. And he did warn her, though. He did warn her. They got engaged when they were 17, and he did always say to her, I am going to kill myself. I don't want to live until my late 20s. But women never listen, do they? You say these things, they never listen. No, I'm telling you.
No, fair enough.
Do you want to join him, Mike? You knew Ian Curtis well, didn't you?
Oh, yes. No, I didn't know him that well, no, actually. I saw him once.
I was reading Hollywood Babylon again recently, and I didn't remember that apparently George Reeve, who played Superman, committed suicide. Did you know that?
That's because he couldn't get any work after Superman.
Of course,
because he was typecast as Superman.
Yeah.
What a shame Christopher Reeves didn't follow him.
Yeah, but the weird thing was that he'd like, his wife knew. No one knows how she knew, but apparently they had some guests around, and he said, "Oh, I'm going upstairs," and she went, "He's going to kill himself." And apparently it was as trivial as this to her. She just went, "He is, I bet you. He's upstairs. He's killing himself. He is upstairs." And then they heard this big shot ring out, and she went, "There you go. Told you."
Well, he had a shotgun with him. He had a big cross on his forehead. I think that gave it away, didn't it?
And she'd left a lot of kryptonite in the... Yeah. Should have been coming up with
There's a joke in there somewhere, isn't there?
Probably not. Vic Goddard from Subway said a couple of weeks ago, not really an interview because I can't do them, but I spoke to him. And tell me, Andrew, have you ever had this experience when you've interviewed someone, because you can interview people properly for rock magazines and stuff like that, when they can't remember anything at all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because Vic had...
Especially rock stars.
Yeah, there were things that he could remember, but there was one I'd read in a book that he used to go on stage dressed as a dolphin. And so I said, "Is this true that you went on stage dressed as a dolphin?" And he went, "Well, it might be. I can't say any more than that." He said, "There's one night where, I think it was in Blackpool, but I can't remember anything at all. So, maybe it was that night. I don't know." And I just thought, that's a weird old life there. If you can't remember going on stage dressed as a dolphin.
Well, they do say, if you can remember being in Gong, and you weren't in Gong, don't they? They do say that. It's the same sort of thing, isn't it? If you're really doing it properly, you wouldn't remember anything, would you?
I suppose so, yeah. Well, Reckless Eric, in that case, is the king. And he probably wasn't ever Reckless Eric.
No, he can't remember being Reckless Eric, can he, at any point?
And I had him on my GLR show in London recently.
You had him in the back of your cab, did you?
Yeah, I had that Reckless Eric on my show recently. And so one of his album covers said that when he was a kid, he saw John Lee Hooker on TV playing Dimples. And from that moment on, he knew he wanted to be a guitar player. And that was like, that crucial moment in your life when you think, from now on, my direction is here. And so I put on Dimples, and we're having a chat, and he looked up, and no look of recognition on his face, and he went, "What's this?
This is good."
Honestly, and I said, "This is John Lee Hooker." Dimples. I thought this was like the record that sort of spurred you on your whole life. And he went, "Oh yeah, might have been."
I like that record.
Yeah, no, I did. I obviously like that record because I just played it.
Because of your haircut. That's why you like it.
I didn't play it because of my haircut, did I?
You did.
Okay, what am I going to play next?
Let's not get into this argument.
No, I want to get into this argument. What am I going to play next?
Well, you're bound to be playing the John Spencer bloody blues explosion next, aren't you?
Well, because it says it. Because it says it on my T-shirt.
No, because you love them.
What?
You're in them.
Of course I'm not in them. Anyway, Andrew.
Never mind me.
Shut your face.
Is Vic there? That's what you want to know.
Yeah, exactly. I want to speak to Vic, so I'm going to turn your mic off forever.
No.
Don't know what's happened there.
Not my fault.
It is your fault. Of course it's your fault, Lard. It's always your fault. You must know that.
I forgot about
You shouldn't let him sit
I'll just
on the
play
desk.
this then. Now, at the beginning of that, you probably heard there was some sort of mistake, and we've had a few mistakes over the evenings, and last night and the night before, in fact, nothing to do with me at all. So, just set the record straight. I've called in Cheese, and Cheese, can you tell me exactly what happened there?
Very squarely with you, that one, I think.
That one
Very
was
squarely
completely my fault. I just hold my hands up, which was what I was doing at the time, and I should have been sorting out what the record was going to be.
The ball's up's in your court, isn't it?
It certainly is, but the last few nights, whose court's it been in, Cheese?
Lard fixing the equipment.
Cheese?
Me.
There you go. So thank you very much. But tonight...
Slap the cuffs on.
Tonight, at last I've matched the ineptitude that goes with this show. And for some reason, you've reminded me of this.
And Supper Fools Gladly Week, all week on Radio 1.
I have a lot of trouble with buses, and I always get off the bus at the wrong stop. And they normally just throw me off, and kick my bum. And there was this he was a conductor, he was like a little tashy big fella, and he said, "You look a bit puzzled." I said, "I'm a bit puzzled. I don't know where to get off the bus." And he said, "You live back there?" And I said, "Oh, bollocks." And he said, "I'll take you back." Which is really nice of him, because he don't normally do that.
Hello, my name's Gillian Tailforth. No, that's woman I've tell you. Hello, I'm Dave, and right... Oh, no, that's not it, is it? Because I ain't Dave. So, right, hello.
If you've been saddled with a tosser, try, just for once, to be patient, to encourage them, to make them feel wanted and needed. And if that doesn't work, take the piss.
It's Suffer Fools Gladly Week all week on Radio 1.
Was it this week you became editor of
I've
Empire magazine?
I've been the editor for 3 days. It's like starting a new school.
Now, how do you... That's a film magazine, and you are a rock journalist.
By trade.
Yeah, by trade, but that's how people do their job. It's by the trade that they do, isn't it?
I know. I never trained to be a rock journalist, did I? I just accidentally became one.
But you didn't train to be a film magazine editor,
But in the process of being a rock journalist over the almost 7 years, which is a long time, I've become...
We know how long 6 or 7 years is. No one's that stupid. Lard!
I nearly said it's a long time in Hollywood. Thank God I didn't say that, eh? That one I sounded the right idiot, wouldn't I? I've learnt how to put magazines out, and that's what it's all about, really.
Oh, right. But are you a film fan?
Oh, of course I am. Do you want to hear my top 10 favourite films of all time?
Not in the slightest, no. But it does smack to me of, like, you know, when they announced the new cabinet and there's someone who was a traffic warden and suddenly they're an MP and they're given, like, they're in charge of food and fisheries or something.
I understand.
Don't you feel a little bit like there might be other journalists whose whole life has been film looking at you with a certain degree of, I'm going to stab you if I ever meet you, Andrew Collins?
I've been reshuffled. I don't mind. I've been reshuffled by the puppet masters who run the company. That's all right.
Are you going to miss writing about bands, though, and all that horrible lifestyle of having to go to millions of gigs you don't want to see?
No way will I miss not going to get gigs. No way. I never will miss gigs. Gigs are horrible things. But you have to... It was worse on the NME, of course. When I worked on the NME, you really, really did have to go to gigs all the time, or at least pretend that you liked going to gigs all the time.
For those that have read the NME, there's no point lying about that, was there?
No, and that's really, really hard work when you start to turn 27.
The hardest work, surely, working at the NME, is like having to talk to the other NME journalists.
Oh, we can't go into that, can we?
Well,
as Diane Keaton says in Manhattan, I don't want to have this conversation.
Okay, fair enough. So what are you going to bring to Empire that people might not have seen it before? I've only read it once or twice, so I can't remember that well. So you could just say film reviews, and I go, oh, well, there's a good idea.
Yeah, I might do some films. Yeah, films that are coming out this week.
Stuff about films.
I'm going to take part of what happens at Q, really, which is just to cram loads of stuff in. This is not funny, is it, really? There's no jokes to be had. I'm going to cram more things in.
Not everything in life has to be funny when you're a magazine editor, you know,
absolutely
Andrew.
Not. No, I'm going to cram things in.
As you've proved so aptly.
I've just decided, actually, I decided today that I'm not going to do what some editors do, which is a little picture of themselves and a little message at the front.
No, I don't do that.
I had thoughts about that, because I thought I never, ever would do that if I ever became an editor, and now I have. The first thing I thought, oh, great, get me picture in and just say, dear readers, but I'm not going to do that. But are you going
to do an editorial? One of those sort of Woodrow Wyatt type things?
No, I'm not.
Andrew Collins, the voice of ill reason.
I'm slightly to the left of Woodrow Wyatt, actually, Mark. I'm afraid. By the way, that's what I'm not going to do.
What?
Bingo cards. Like Brookside have done.
Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, you might have heard the sound of us shoehorning in a link there. Bingo cards, like they have in Brookside.
It's getting my goat. The fact that Brookside, which is really one of my favourite programmes, my wife and I like nothing better than to sit down at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon to watch the Omnibus. Brookside, great programme, and they've had to go down market, obviously, just to compete with the other soaps. And you get a Brookside bingo in the Daily Mirror, and you get a card with 4 Brookside characters, Ron Dixon and Bev and Patricia Farnham. And what you have to do is you watch the programme, and then when one of them says the line, which is written on your card, you fill it in like a bingo. It's the most pathetic.
And there's only 4.
There's only 4. And
imagine bingo with 4 numbers.
And guess what the lines are? R.A. Sinbad, R.A. Beth, R.A. Oh, that's what they say. And so I just want to complain. That's all on air.
Fair enough.
I think it's a shame.
But not nearly as bad as, I can't remember which paper was it. I think it was probably the Star. Well, they had or maybe the Mirror, but they had the bingo. Which was printed over a topless model. Well, they had a topless model stood there, and they had all like numbers printed all over it, and that was the big announcement. And you think, what? That is the most undignified thing for anyone to go through. Someone like a young girl starting out in the modelling business and thinking, right, yep, finally got into the paper, and no one can even see her freakish nipples.
Mark Lamarr, missing you already.